The other day, the AFL released their 44-man squad for the 2022 All-Australian team, and I decided, ahead of the big night on Wednesday night, I'd pick my best 22 players out of those 44 to pick my 2022 AFL All-Australian team. Now, going from back to front, starting off with the full-back line, and I have actually gone with 3 full-backs. I've gone Hawthorn's James Sicily, West Coast's Tom Barrass, and Geelong's Tom Stewart. Starting off with Hawthorn's James Sicily, he just continues to string together phenomenal year after phenomenal year. He led the competition in marks and he smashed that achievement out the park. He led the competition in marks with 190, and in second the number was 163, so an absolutely huge gap. Hawthorn obviously haven't had the greatest year, which means a lot of laying the ball back down to the back line, and James Sicily cleaned up so well, in which could have been a much more horror year for Hawthorn had they not had James Sicily. So yeah, what a year and what a performance by him. I've now gone with someone from the West Coast Eagles, a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I've gone with Tom Barrass. I mean, especially this man's second half of the year, he was absolutely absurd, just racking up some of the competition's best key forwards week after week, keeping them goalless or to one goal, and he was probably the reason why West Coast didn't even lose more percentage and dropped to being Wood and Spooners. Tom Barrass, light at the end of the tunnel for the West Coast Eagles in a very dark year, and easily their shining light out of a horror year. And I'm also going to go with Geelong's Tom Stewart. Like Tom Barrass, just racking up some of the competition's best key forwards week after week, and not that he had to do a lot considering how good Geelong were, but some of the role he played all year was just so consistent and so good. He did get a 5-week suspension at one point, but that doesn't stop me thinking that he deserves this All-Australian spot. Now let's go to the half-back line. I have St Kilda's Jack Sinclair, Geelong's Mark Blitzarves, and Collingwood's Jack Crisp. Let's start off with Jack Crisp, a man who actually played midfield for most of the year, a little bit of a gutsy sort of midfielder. Didn't really play halfback, but he can slot straight into the halfback line considering the midfield spaces are so packed, and you can pretty much classify Crisp as a halfback. Yeah, I mean, he was arguably Collingwood's best player in a top 4 standard year. I mean, he was just so clean with the ball, getting in and under, cleaning up around the contest. What a year from Jack Crisp. Now let's go for a little bit of an unpopular call maybe. I'm going with Geelong's Mark Blitzarves at centre half back. A really solid year by him once again. I mean, he's been so consistent his whole career, and he racks up another really good defensive year, helping out in the ruck when Reece Stanley wasn't available. Yeah, Mark Blitzarves, a great year by him. And Jack Sinclair has elevated his game to another level in 2022. Just that free running halfback, and a halfback that has the ability to get 40 touches. Yeah, I mean, his roof is absolutely outstanding, and Jack Sinclair has got a whole lot more great footy to come. He is just hitting his prime right at a time where St Kilda really need to start surging deep into finals if they want to be serious about their footy. Now let's go with the centre line. I have on the wings Brisbane's Hugh McCluggage, Collingwood's Josh Dacos, and in the middle Adelaide's Rory Laird. Starting off with Hugh McCluggage, a real underrated year by him. I almost think he could take the Chockies almost for having a better year than Lachie Neale. I'd still probably give it to Lachie Neale, but yeah, Hugh McCluggage has had a phenomenal year, and you can't fault what he's done in and under and along the wing for Brisbane at times this year. And then we can move on to the other wing. Collingwood's Josh Dacos, his brother, didn't actually get the nod in his first year into the 44-man All-Australian squad, which is a little bit of a shock, but Josh Dacos gets the nod for me onto the wing. Such an important role all year for Collingwood, just did his job week in, week out, and it's such a high standard. And in the centre, I've got Rory Laird, a tackling beast, a contested beast, and a beast that definitely deserves to go into this All-Australian side with a really stacked midfield lineup. Now, let's move on to the half-forward line. I've gone with Port Adelaide's Cotter Z, Geelong's Jeremy Cameron, and the Western Bulldogs' Marcus Bontempelli. Starting off with Cotter Z, a real up year for him, and a year where he's taking his game to another level. He seems to be slogging into superstardom of that Port Adelaide side that can hopefully grow back into finals sooner rather than later, and Cotter Z is a massive part of their future, and what a year by him. I mean, Jeremy Cameron, he speaks for himself. He's arguably the best player in the comp this year. I mean, obviously he can't win a Brownlow. I mean, a forward's never going to win a Brownlow, but I tell you what, he's arguably the most valuable and was the best player in the comp this year. What a year by Jeremy Cameron. He can push up the ground to get 25 touches and 4 goals. He's a player like no other, Jeremy Cameron. So integral into the Cats' premiership push in 2022. I'll also chuck Marcus Bontempelli at half forward. Not the typical Bont year you expect, just absolutely dominating and leading in the Brownlow races, but it's a packed midfield space, and I couldn't fit him into the midfield because he did have, once again, a great year, and I'll chuck him on half forward, a contested beast, and yeah, I think LeBron does deserve another All-Australian jacket. Now let's go to the full forward line. I have another Geelong player. I mean, I've got that many Geelong players that have had a great year. I've got Geelong's Tyson Stengel, Carlton's Charlie Curnow, and Richmond's Shai Bolton. Now for Tyson Stengel, an average player for the Crows, a player who was getting in trouble for some illicit things last year with the Crows. The Cats took him under their wing, and what a year he has had, turned into one of the best small forwards in the competition, and it's great to see how well Tyson Stengel is playing his footy. Now, I've got Charlie Curnow in at full forward. He did make a few dumb mistakes against Collingwood in that final round of the season to decide their top 8 fate. But he is the Coleman Megalist after all, and he did have a phenomenal year overall, and I think Charlie Curnow does deserve to go in there. And I mean, Shai Bolton, he'd been in the conversation with Jeremy Cameron as the best player in 2022. What a year Shai Bolton has had. Again, like Tyson Stengel, hasn't come from the absolute depths of nowhere, but geez, he's just that little crumbing, pushing up the ground, do it all sort of small forward, and that's the new kind of small forwards we began to see in the modern day era. And Stengel and Bolton, two very similar players and two phenomenal players. Now let's go to the followers. I've got Melbourne's Max Gawn, Fremantle's Andrew Brayshaw, and Gold Coast took Miller. Max Gawn speaks for himself. There wasn't really any other standout ruckman this year, so I think Max Gawn does just go in there automatically. Freo's Andy Brayshaw, a Brownlow sniff along with Took Miller. They're probably the two front runners at the moment, Andy Brayshaw and Took Miller. Yeah, it'll be a real interesting on Brownlow night to see who does get the chockies, or who does get the Brownlow. But yeah, I mean, Brayshaw's a contested beast, Took's a contested beast, Took's a very clean around the contest too, and I mean, Andy can push forward and kick a goal if he needs. So good defensively and pressure-wise. I mean, they're two midfielders that are the future of the competition. Now let's go on the interchange, and this will be one of the most stacked interchanges you'll ever see because I couldn't fit them in their suitable position on field. I've got Gold Coast Jared Witts, he was really the only backup ruck option that I could think of. And then we've got Brisbane's Lachie Neale, Carlton's Paddy Cripps, and Sydney's Callum Mills, and a few names that I hated to leave out, but, you know, don't take it personally. Lachie Neale, obviously another phenomenal year and a Brownlow sniff, but he does get the nod on the interchange bench of my All-Australian. Paddy Cripps, probably easily the Brownlow favourite for about 10 rounds, and then did fall away a little bit, got caught up with a little bit of injury, but yeah, he has like a great year, and you can't doubt that. And Callum Mills, a real under-the-radar player for the Swans this year, really underrated, and I do think he also gets an All-Australian nod. So, thank you all for watching, and yeah, let me know what you disagree with, let me know what you agree with down in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.